Alright fellas, you're right back at Pokemon Masters, and everything here at Maxi and Groudon at 1 out of 5 6-star EX without the EX roll unlocked. Obviously, about 2 days ago on Pokemon Masters Day, Maxi did get his EX roll unlocked along with his rerun. And I did the showcase for Archie without his EX roll back when he re-released, and I figured I'd go ahead and do it for Maxi too. My Maxi's only 1 out of 5. I may get him to 3 out of 5 eventually, not too sure. I do like him. I summoned for Archie and Maxi over the 3rd anniversary sync pairs besides Cynthia and Lucario, simply because I like them more. I really did. Kyogre and Groudon, they're sick. That's all there is to it. May not be stronger, but they're sick, and I don't really regret it. But anyway, yeah, so Maxi, he's really strong. I mean, he's got 454 attack. He's got effectively a 200 base power offensive move, and he's got an innate 30% multiplier on top of a master passive, as well as a 30% multiplier if you pick up Weathered Warrior 3 as a lucky skill. The dude's going to be hitting hard. I don't think there's much else that needs to be said. And plus, with the Tech EX roll as well as level 150, he will be hitting even harder, so Maxi can still hit pretty hard for today's standards. Archie too, but Archie has the caveat of having a lower offensive base stat, where Maxi actually has an actual attack stat to work with. So yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at Maxi at 1 out of 5 6-star EX at a few different battles, and yeah, I'll see you all in the first one. The first setup for Maxi here is a free-to-play Hoenn maxing setup. Yeah, that's not going to get confusing at all. Don't worry about it. But we do have Phoebe and Courtney here as semi-free-to-play characters. This was an exact setup that I used during Phoebe's showcase, and well, the same problems in that showcase are still highlighted here because, yeah, Phoebe's slow. Team as a whole is slow. So yeah. Anyway, whatever. Point being, this setup does work for effective ground type KOs. It doesn't really matter that much. I don't think I really needed to state that or make it noted, I guess. This is just basically seeing how explosive Maxi's damage can be under the right conditions. So now he's got Ground Zone, +2 physical moves next, super effective next, support EX2. And we're going to see just how damaging these Precipice Blades can be. So, yeah. 17,000 split damage, by the way. Doing that much is pretty damn crazy. And then Courtney finishing off for us there, of course. Very nice. So yeah, Maxi has some very nice on-type damage, but I don't really think that needed to be stated. I just wanted to put it out there for people who are curious. If you really want an on-type ground striker, Maxi's going to suffice in pretty much any content. Even him and Courtney will suffice in the ultimate battle versus Lucy. Just, you kind of need the right partners. I've seen some people put out some videos on that, so maybe go look those up if you're interested in seeing Maxi being able to actually take on Lucy, which is very interesting. But yeah, for a free-to-play, semi-free-to-play rather, ground setup or Hoenn maxing setup for Maxi, then this is one that works out very well. So all there is to it. Let's go ahead and move on to the next bit, where we're going to be looking at Maxi with an off-type team. Alright, so the second setup here is with a basic off-type with Rika and Fall Roxanne. Why Fall Roxanne? I don't know, didn't want to use Courtney. So we were able to use Rika here for obviously the ground zone as well as offensive buffing, so we don't have to worry much about using Maxi's Churn move. Obviously use it once for the +1 accuracy and all that, but for the most part, just stray away from that, especially in stages that like to use AoE moves. Maxi's defenses are not fantastic, and that's one thing you really do have to worry about with him, is like if he ever lowers his defenses or even just don't have his defenses raised at all, he's going to be taking a lot of damage in harder content. His defenses suck. Just outright, his defenses are extremely low. Even for modern striker standards, they are quite low. I think they cap out at 170 to 180-ish, and that's with the EX roll. Whereas most strikers, even without the EX roll, nowadays tend to have at least around 190 in the defenses, I believe. I could be misremembering that, but for the most part, I believe that's about true. That's about right. But anyway. So, yeah, we're able to use Rika here, of course, for the ground zone and offensive buffing, and of course, we're able to use Roxanne for the defensive debuffing, all that good stuff. The problem with this setup here is that Maxi does run out of sun, and that is a problem for the most part, of course. He's able to do a lot of good damage, of course, spread damage and otherwise, right? But you do have to worry about missing sun. If you do want to try and mitigate the loss of sun, of course, you could just, bring Signature Acerola and Courtney instead, which is going to be the final battle. I ended up just bringing that anyway. That used to be, but that's probably the generic go-to setup for Maxi, I think, as is. Maybe it's changed, I'm not too sure. But either way, if you do want to mitigate the loss of Sun, then you can of course bring Signusid Acerola or Signusid Morty or something, or maybe need a Champion Leaf for her defensive debuffing and, you know, side damage and whatnot, right? You could do that, or you could, you know, 3 out of 5 Maxi, but you could also give him Critical Strike 2 as a lucky skill instead of Weathered Warrior, just to supplement the damage loss that he's going to be facing when, you know, Solar Surge ends up running out. I do have Weathered Warrior 3 on my Maxi, but if you do want to run Critical Strike 2, just in case Sun does, you know, go down, that is pretty justifiable and does, you know, make some sense. Maxi does, I do think that the Sun being a big thing with Maxi is kind of becoming more of a downside as time goes on for him. Third setup is the grass type Solar Beam setup. Not much else needs to really be said here. Just going to be doing a generic grass type stage. I mean, I could definitely have done this without Mixed Red. Mixed Red was definitely not needed for this setup, but I did want to kind of, I guess, maximize Maxi Solar Beam damage with a grassy terrain setter, and I didn't want to bring Acerola for that because she is more physically oriented. So I brought Mixed Red because he's able to, for one, act as a tank and also be able to debuff special defense, so the Solar Beams for Maxi are going to be doing more damage for sure. I brought Costume Jasmine for maxing out special attack, as well, close enough to maxing out special attack, I guess, as well as maxing out crit here, so we do have very respectable offensive stats. Solar Beam is a very solid secondary damaging option for Maxi, especially because it is a 2-gauge move for sure, because you're able to you're able to make great use of his high base power with his low gauge. You get Solar Surge for a 30% multiplier. Solar Beam is like a base, like 160 move or something like that in terms of power. The only thing that needs is Sun up, which of course Maxi is going to have up anyway. So I mean, that's not exactly what I would call a problem. And that's pretty much it. And of course, with, you know, the different abilities of grass type enhancement, like the usage of Mixed Red, you know, Adamant for grass rebuff, Signusid Acerola and whatnot, right? Like all these good grass buffing characters, Maxi's going to be performing quite well under those, even in an off type situation. I just didn't feel the necessity to look at Maxi at an off type situation and Solar Beam damage. If you are curious about that, let me know. I'll try and set something up. But for the most part, I mean, he's definitely got good secondary grass damage. It's kind of like Silver, except just, you know, cranked up higher, because Silver does kind of lack offensive stats for the most part, but Maxi definitely kind of makes up for that. And honestly, Silver's damage at 1 out of 5, 5 out of 5 is probably better with Solar Beam than Maxi at 1 out of 5, because 3 out of 5 Maxi does gain, I think, like Critical Strike on Solar Beam or something that just increases the actual damage output of it by quite a bit. So definitely trust in the fact that Maxi is actually very capable of doing grass damage, especially with an actual grid, because of what he's able to gain. Just he doesn't gain too much outside of the Solar Beam damage. Alright, and to finish off here, we have a battle with Signusid Acerola and Courtney, as promised, right? Of course, Courtney is just Maxi. I don't think she's his best partner anymore, but for the most part, like, I mean, Courtney is just such an easy run with Maxi for the most part, right? I mean, she's just able to do what he needs, you know, do what he needs help with, and she's got a nuke. Maxi can cover DPS, Courtney can cover a nuke, and Acerola covers enhancement damage with both of them. Not much else really just needs to be said. And of course, Courtney being AoE with her Bulldoze does kind of help out a little bit in making it faster to where Maxi can KO the sides and start focusing on his single target damage. So, yeah. But under the enhancement of Acerola, Maxi just looks insane. Even at 1 out of 5, Maxi does look like he's really capable of doing a ton of damage, even under like high strength parameters in Stadium and all of that stuff. Maxi can still look really, really strong under that. Especially now when we're getting the support EX up here with Acerola. Definitely valid to nuke with Courtney for sure. That's also a viable idea. But I wanted to try and enhance the damage of Maxi specifically as much as possible, and obviously being able to use a support EX for that is good, of course. So the constant physical moves next influx is really making Maxi look a lot more impressive for sure. And the single target Precipice Blades is going to do absolutely absurd damage for sure. Plus 4 physical moves next boosted. Precipice Blades, how much does this do? Yeah, 13,000. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. And of course, setting the Sun with Acerola does give +2 physical moves next as well. So we're able to, of course, extend Sun because of Acerola and still gain a lot of actual moves next attacks, right? So the damage consistency in Maxi goes up a lot with Acerola as a partner. He just, instead of having to, rely on just ground zone and, general enhancements like defensive debuffs or whatever, or just, a support that buffs offenses and maybe gauge management, he also gets the enhancement from the physical moves next, which really just increases his damage output a ton. And I mean, hey, he's probably one of the biggest benefitors of Signature Acerola's existence, which her as a very, very solid physical support in all senses, that's kind of a lot to say, I guess, because she's able to enhance so many different characters. But I think Maxi specifically is one of the greatest ones because there is, very few actual Sunsetters that can synergize super well with Maxi, I guess, in terms of, supportive ability. Morty does synergize quite well, but of course he's more of a defense-oriented support and not really a damage enhancer. So Acerola being able to set Sun and have Maxi reliably extended, alongside provide so many physical moves next buffs, and also speed buffs on her trainer move, is amazing for gauge and amazing for just damage enhancement on Maxi. So yeah, that's the 1 out of 5 Maxi and Groudon 6-star EX showcase. Let me know what you think about them down in the comments below. Maybe I'll 3 out of 5 them, but I don't really think that the damage and really all of the playstyle of them is going to change too much between the 6-star EX 3 out of 5 and EX roll, right? So yeah, I'll see y'all later. Hope y'all enjoyed. Let me know what you think about Maxi down in the comments below. Peace. Have a great day.